The big question, what is the latest surrounding the Israeli elections? Well, the Central Elections Committee has just presented Israeli President Rivlin with the official election results today. The committee verified the election results on Tuesday and said that no significant evidence of voter fraud was actually found. On Monday, April 5th, Rivlin will be meeting with representatives of all elected parties to hear who they recommend should be given the mandate to form the next government. That same day, we'll also see the start of the evidentiary stage of Prime Minister Netanyahu's criminal trial for alleged corruption. But we have our senior correspondent, Owen Alterman, joining us as per usual with the latest. So, Owen, first of all, President Rivlin made a very interesting comment when he received the verified election results. What did he say, and what does it mean?
Well, what he said, Natasha, was that he was going to be giving the mandate to form a government to whoever has the best chances of forming the government. Reading between the lines, not necessarily to whoever gets the most recommendations. And that's always been the practice in Israel in the past. That led to a huge storm in the political class. Again, each side taking aim at Rivlin or defending him. The reality, Natasha, is I think there's a lot less to this than meets the eye, because the reality is come Monday, at least the way things look now, the person with the most recommendations and the best chance of forming a government is likely to be the same person, and it's likely to be Benjamin Netanyahu. That's not to say he's going to actually succeed in forming the government. We've seen time and time again over the last 2 years where grizzled veterans of individual politicians certainly having the claim to get the mandate, but not actually forming the government. But certainly each side is taking aim at Rivlin. The Likud was up in arms. Again, Benjamin Netanyahu's party up in arms after Rivlin said this, saying that he was essentially betraying his office and that he was not following the norms of Israeli politics, where the president has always given the mandate to whoever had the most recommendations. And the other side of the political spectrum jumping to Rivlin's defense. But I think this was really just a chance for each side to be fighting with each other over issues that are within their comfort zone. This idea of respect for institutions. At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference.
I mean, but at this point, what is the norm in Israeli politics? Because we've just, seen our fourth round of elections in less than 2 years, probably headed to fifth. I'd like you to break down the latest news regarding the political parties and their alliances. I mean, what is happening right now? What's the talk of the town?
Well, listen, there are obviously a lot of moving parts, and we're not necessarily much closer to forming a government. But keep your eye, as a viewer, keep your eye on what's going on in the pro-Netanyahu camp. Is there potentially some wiggle room from the religious Zionism party in terms of their being willing to accept support of some kind, of any kind, from that Ram party, that Arab party that is potentially willing to give some support for Netanyahu's prime minister and for his coalition in exchange for concessions and for budgets for their constituents? We'd heard Bezalel Smotrich a few days ago, Natasha, come out and say no way, no how. But some noises, at least from some within the religious Zionism party and its orbit over the last couple days, hinting that there might be some wiggle room, including the Rabbi Chaim Druckman, who's a spiritual leader for that community. So again, if the religious Zionism party is willing to compromise on that point, that could potentially be a kind of game changer and set a path for Netanyahu to form a government. Of course, he still needs Naftali Bennett and his Yamina party to agree, and of course needs the Ram party to agree. So still needs to bring all those cats in, but it at least gives Netanyahu a kind of lane to form a government. As for the other side of the political spectrum, the news is the other camp just simply can't agree on who should become prime minister. Should it be Yair Lapid of the Yesh Atid party? Should it be Naftali Bennett of the Yamina party? And without a kind of agreement, it's hard for them to move forward as a group.
Well, it seems it could be discussing some type of rotation deal, but it seems like Lapid does not want to lose control forming that government coalition. So I guess my next question for you is, and give us a quick answer on this, what comes next? After the mandate is handed to Netanyahu or Lapid or whoever it's going to be, what happens?
Well, procedurally, Natasha, we've run this obstacle course before. Rivlin has said he'll decide by Wednesday who gets that mandate. And from the time at which he hands over the mandate, whoever gets it will have 28 days, potentially another 14-day extension, although Rivlin can deny that in their signals he would, to try to form a government. If that person doesn't do it by that time, then somebody else could potentially get a shot for 28 days. And then if that fails, then it goes to the Israeli parliament and somebody could come out with 21 days. And if we run through this whole obstacle course without a government, we go back to elections. But again, I think the most important thing to keep our eye on at this point is what does the religious Zionism party have to say about the Ram party giving its support? Again, that far-right party, would it be willing to have something to do with the Arab party? If so, Netanyahu could form a government.